First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessor, transmitting masters, lectures, and everyone here today for the opportunity to continue talking about the purpose of Tao. So last time we kind of gave some background introduction to it. And so today it's starting with the actual text of this document, if you want to call it that. Okay, so so the first phrase, so the first phrase is Jing Tian Di. Okay, so but actually it kind of goes together with the next one. So Li Senming. Okay, so Jing Tian Di, Li Senming. These kind of go together. But if you want to you can say the direct meaning or the direct translation of this would be to respect heaven and earth. So this is, to respect basically the creator of the heavens and earth, admiring the vastness and brilliance of the heavens, and emulate the great capacity and tolerance of the earth. Right? It's a kind of gratitude for being heaven born and earth raised. Right? So we are spiritually, we come from heaven, but we are physically in this world on earth, and that's, we depend on the earth for survival. Okay, so the ancient people, they thanked and worshipped heaven, right? Earth, well, not just heaven, but earth, and also the three illuminations, basically the sun, the moon, and the stars. So humans are also known as one of the three powers, right? The three powers, basically it's heaven, earth, and then also humans. So that's humans are the third power. And because humans stand with their head pointing to heaven and the feet standing on the earth. Other humans are the only, you can say, living organism on the earth that do that, right? So all others, all animals, they basically, their back is pointed, is towards heaven, basically. Okay, so humans kind of are unique. Okay. Now, without the heavens above and the earth below, we could not exist, right? I mean, we, like I said, we depend on the earth for our very survival. Okay. So we should learn from and emulate the capacity of the heavens to tolerate what people cannot tolerate, and learn the accommodation of the earth. So yeah, basically we are also kind of like a microcosm of the whole cosmos or universe. Okay. Basically, yeah, the heavens, so vast, right? So you can say that it has such great capacity, right? It contains everything. And so we should learn to be like that. Our heart, we should have such a magnanimous, broad heart to be able to tolerate and to accommodate everything, just like also the earth can accommodate all of us. And everything that we throw at it, what we do to the earth, it can tolerate and accommodate. So the earth, heaven and earth are two very good examples, if we try to look at it that way, to learn from, to emulate. These are, we can say that these are kind of like virtues, I mean, when applied to humans, right? Their great capacity and tolerance, accommodation, right? So this is something, if we look to nature, we'll see that there's a lot to learn, that we can learn from nature. And that's how the ancients, maybe because they had more wisdom, certainly there was no technology to speak of back then. And so, their minds were pure and simple, but they can realize, because they lived much closer to nature, so they realized how great, and they're definitely very grateful for nature, and that's why they worship. You can say they worship heaven and earth as well. Okay. So now, okay, so there was once this person named Zhao Gong Qing. Okay, so every night he would make an offering, okay, burn incense and pray. Now, seemingly, from other people, they see him doing this, they think, maybe he's praying to heaven. Now, one day someone was curious and asked him, every night you make an offering and pray. What is that about? So Zhao Gongqing laughed and said, I'm not doing anything. It's just that since I was a child, I would always, or when he was younger, would always burn incense and report what he did to the heavens, okay, to God. Now, he says, since God is high above and really far away, I'm not sure my prayers were heard, but I use the prayers as a reminder to myself, right, to guard against my words and deeds to avoid making mistakes. Moreover, we must have fear in our heart when we do anything because God is omnipresent. Right, so God is everywhere and knows everything. So if I dare not to report it to God, then I also dare not to do it, right? So that's kind of being kind of God-fearing, if you will, is realize that, well, everything I do, even, well, beyond that, things we say and also even what we think, what's in our heart and mind is known by God and perhaps, I guess, the Buddhas, all the divinities, okay? So they all are aware of that. And so we have to be careful, okay? So this is kind of a good thing to kind of we have to be aware, of course. We have to be aware and conscious of this, and that way we will control ourselves, control our conduct, our behavior, so that we don't do things that we shouldn't do, right? So basically, we don't dare do the things that we do not dare to report to heaven. So this is like the morning and evening, incense offering and kato and repentance that we do. But of course, we have to actually, not only do we say, recite that repentance prayer, but we actually have to do it, follow through and correct ourselves if we've made mistakes to reform ourselves. Okay. But what this Zhao Gongqing was doing, I mean, he was, I guess, maybe he's saying things potentially to remind himself not to do those things. So that's something that we should always do, right? Okay. So then the second half of that, the Li Senming. Okay, so you can say it's to follow the ways of the saintly, but actually it's to learn from and emulate the virtues of the divinities, which includes, God, the enlightened beings, spiritual, even our spiritual nature, okay, true nature, Buddha nature, and also, of course, you can say the saints, sages, those, with virtue, and follow the spirit of their cultivation in a practical way. People originally care about others, right? This comes from the original nature, the Tao heart. Okay. So we revere the divinities, right? We don't seek blessings or longevity, but we revere them and to learn and emulate their virtues. Okay, that's really the purpose. I mean, today people probably are you see in the movies, right? These people, these bad guys, right? These criminals, and they go to the temple and they burn incense and I guess maybe say a little prayer asking for Buddha's blessing. But you think, is the Buddha really gonna bless them when they're about to commit a crime? That doesn't make sense. Now, okay, so maybe we don't go that far, but if we are even asking, heaven, asking God, asking the Buddhas for, let's say, hey, help me make more money, or anything that is basically, you can say, for personal benefit, okay, then that is less likely to happen too. Basically, we have to, we talk about, there's this thing called ganing, okay, so it's getting a response. How do we get a response from heaven? It's not that, we make demands or we make requests, we have to do something, right, to show that we are sincere. Okay, so it's just making demands and requests, that doesn't work. We have to do something first, basically, show that we are sincere, perform merits, carry out the mission of heaven. That's then that heaven, the Buddhas will help us, right? Okay, so basically, all right. So there's this story here. Okay, so Emperor Liang Wu of the Southern Dynasty. Okay, so you probably heard of him. He asked this monk, Zigong, okay, so, what karma did I have from previous life that allowed me to become an emperor in this life? Right, so the monk replied, "Oh, this poor monk dare not say." Right, but Emperor Liang Wu insisted, "Please explain, Zen master. I will not blame you." Okay, so the monk explained, "Well, your majesty was an earthworm in an earlier life. Okay, now after reincarnation, you became in one of the next, I guess, of some following life, became a woodcutter. I guess that would have been the life just before he became the emperor." And there's another story about the earthworm when he was an earthworm. Because usually when you're like an earthworm is kind of pretty lowly, right? It's kind of like an insect level life form, and that's very low spiritually, and so it takes a long time to become a human again. But he actually, as an earthworm, he did some good. But okay, we're not going to go into that story. But so once he became this woodcutter, and so one day he was cutting wood, collecting firewood in the mountains, and he saw there was a shrine, and he saw that it was in disrepair. The I guess the thatched roof or whatever. There is a big hole, and it was raining, and the rain was getting in, and there was a little Buddha statue inside, which was getting drenched in the rain. So when he saw that, he felt in his heart, he just felt this it was unbearable, right? That seeing the Buddha statue getting all wet like that, exposed to the elements. And so he took his hat, right, I guess a straw hat, and he kind of put it on the head of the Buddha statue. So basically this thought and act of kindness earned him the merit to become the emperor in, his current life. So now we might say, well, that's very, I mean, we might think that there's not a big merit there, right? It's no big deal. It's like, oh, okay, just do that. It's a small act of kindness, but turned out, according to his monk, that's what earned him basically the blessing, if you will, the right to become an emperor in his current life. So we should not look down on any little good deed or act of kindness, because everything counts, and of course, more importantly, is the sincerity, right? The sincerity that we have when we do that, why we're doing it. Okay, you can say that motivation. What's the motivation or the intent? If it's just coming from that pure, innocent heart, just like children when they do something, let's say they share or they give, it's pure innocence. I mean, they don't do it with some kind of motive. Okay, so that's how we should, as adults, that's how we need to be as well. Especially when we're cultivating. Okay. All right. So Holy Teacher says, right, those who respect or honor are sincere. Right, we must respect and honor those who benefit us. Right, so heaven descended the great Tao and expounded the one principle, or the principle of truth, right? Letting people know the one principle that is the beginning of all things. One eternal God as the creator and master of all, the mother of all souls and ancestor of all living beings. right? So basically, yeah, so basically respecting heaven and earth and following the ways of saintly is basically honoring and respecting, and, with sincerity, of course, uh, those who benefit us. So in this case, it would be heaven and earth. I mean, and God, of course, all the divinities that we benefit from them. Okay, so obviously, no, we actually spiritually come from God. Okay, you can say we're children of God, and so in that way too, you can say God is. So in Chinese, right, or in the Tao, we say Lao Mu. Okay, so it's like the old mother, and so spiritual mother. And so, yeah, it's like our mother, and so it's like that's we should also be filial, right? In terms of human parents, we should also be filial to them. So we should also be filial to our spiritual mother, right? So, all right. So, and he goes on saying, being born in the world, people have lost their original nature, forgotten where they came from, and suffered through the cycle of birth and death. God is constantly concerned and descended the great Tao to save sentient beings so they can follow the bright path and return to their original nature. Therefore, those who respect and honor God are repaying the grace of saving and ferrying them and expressing sincerity. So how can this be regarded as superstition? So, right, I mean, I guess from the what people might say today is like, oh, you're worshiping. Well, okay, God. I mean, that's religions, they do that. But then when maybe there's a misunderstanding about, you're kind of worshiping or paying reverence to heaven and earth, all these things. But it's really about not the physical things, but it's basically about the divinity, right? The creator. So here let's so Jing, right? This first word here, character, is respect and honor. Okay, is the true intention of the original heart, right? Therefore, the saying, 君子诚也. Okay, so this is respect is sincerity, all right. And is a 诚心正. Okay, so the sincere heart is upright, right? And then so 天地神明, so the 天地神明, okay, so the first character in each of these is a verb, right? And actions. So here as well, and so these are kind of the objects of the action, and so so when we're talking about these, the 天地, heaven and earth, and also you can say the divinities, right? It's not a general term for deities, but refers to the one and only God of all creation, or the Tao, right? In the Doctrine of Mean, it says, right, what heaven has conferred upon us, right, is the self or true nature, right? In accordance, if we follow that true nature, that is called the way or the Tao, and the cultivation of the Tao is the practice, or sometimes you say religion. Okay, so so basically, yeah, we have this divine nature. Yeah, this self or this true nature. You can say it's the divine nature. Okay, of us. It comes from God. So we follow it. By following that nature is really maybe one aspect is to say we follow our conscience, right? The conscience is, you can say, the voice or the manifestation of that true nature. And so if we follow that conscience, then that is the Tao. That is the way of the Tao, okay? And then finally, there's the actual practice of it, right? So this is really, that's what this is kind of all about, right? So therefore, right, respecting the saints and sages is actually paying reverence to the one and only supreme Tao, God or Tao. Okay, because basically the saints and sages, right, they also represent Tao or represent the divinity. Right, so paying reverence to God is not just in the temple proprieties, right? But even more so, it's in daily life through our sincerity, magnanimity, diligence in work, and love among friends. Okay, so this, to say that, so when we say, oh, we respect God, or, we pay reverence, it's not just when we're doing it in the temple, when we're doing the kato. It's in everyday life, how we treat others, right? So, being sincere and honest, and being magnanimous, accommodating, tolerant, forgiving, right? And being very diligent in fulfilling our duties, right? And also, having the love, camaraderie among friends and others. But this is because, everything actually, because we also have that, well, we have that true nature, right? That divine nature within us, everyone. And therefore, we should treat everyone as if pretty much the same way, so as we treat God. So when sincerity and respect manifest from the original heart, this behavior is naturally consistent with Li, or propriety. Okay, so remember when we talked about this in the 15 temple rules and regulations, that it was very important. Okay, there's propriety. So Holy Teacher says, the one truth or principle is the creator and master of all things in heaven and earth, right? At the same time, God is within each of us. That is the Tao, heart and mind. Right? Therefore, God and the divinities can inspect our hearts and minds and monitor our conduct constantly and everywhere, right? So, yeah, how does God and the divinities, the Buddhas, how do they know what's in our heart and mind? Because we have this Tao, heart and mind. We have that Buddha nature, okay, that spiritual nature, and it's connected. It's connected. I mean, it's basically, you can say it's one with God. Okay, it's one with the Tao. So obviously they can know, what's everything, that what we're thinking, what we're feeling. All right. Holy Teacher says, what comes from the true nature is the Tao heart. All right. So this is also the conscience. Before the universe was created, only God and Tao existed, right? So, right, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, so is before anything, before we had the universe. Okay, after humans came about, the Tao heart is God. So the Tao heart is the divinity of heaven and earth, and to follow the requirement of the Tao heart is basically to Jing Tian Di Li Sen Ming. Okay, so it's what we're talking about here: respect heaven and earth, and also to follow the ways of the saintly, right? To revere the divinities of heaven and earth. Okay, so note that we are not treating the Tao heart as the object of reverence, but it is not to cover up that Tao heart. So in other words, we're not this Tao heart. We're not paying respects to that, but because that is kind of like the expression, if you will, of that divine self, okay, the divine nature within us. And the more important thing is that we are not covering it up. We are not blocking it, preventing it from manifesting. Okay, so how does that happen? It's when we have desires, we have attachments, right? These are the types of things that prevent or cover up that Tao heart. Okay, so that's the important thing, that when we are paying reverence, or you can say maybe even worshiping the God and divinities, that this is part of that meaning, okay, is to not cover up our Tao heart, okay? So make sure that our Tao heart is expressed and manifested, right? In the 10 Great Vows, right? We say, do not hide the Tao, right? Do not conceal the Tao. So this is part of that. Do not conceal or cover up that Tao heart. Okay. Now the scriptures, they say, our thoughts should never leave this, right? What is this? It says never leave the Tao, right? Which means to always be conscious and aware of basically our conduct and actions, right? That we of our virtues and moral principles, right? Be conscious and aware of those so that everything that we do is in accordance with the virtues and the moral principles. Right. Okay, so therefore, the core principle of the Purpose of Tao is to respect heaven and earth, and when we also follow the ways of the saintly, we can nurture that, basically nurture this respect, okay, this reverence. Right, so we can do that basically by constantly participating in the temple proprieties and activities to nurture and maintain that respect for heaven and earth. Okay, so, but obviously it's not just in the temple, but when we're doing it in the temple, of course, it's more obvious, if you will, because it's kind of like, oh, that's we're in that environment where we're actually, you can say that that's the intent, the direct intent, but the second one, to treat people and matters in daily life with a sincere and respectful heart is to then follow the ways of saintly. So these two things, but it's really it's one, but so outside in everyday daily life, how we treat people and how we deal with matters, make sure that we are sincere and honest and respectful, and then that is besides all the other virtues. Then that is really, basically practicing this. Okay. Now, Holy Teacher says, when we respect the Buddha, do not merely respect the Buddha that you can see, but also respect the Buddha within. Okay, so we mentioned this before. In fact, this is very similar to the first of the 15 temple rules and regulations, right? Or disciplines, proprieties, right? The 尊敬先佛. Okay, so respect Buddha. Okay, so this is actually very close to that, and so that's why this is actually the first thing here in the Purpose of Tao. Okay, just like that was the first rule of the 15 temple rules. Okay, because it's the key, it's the core, it's the most important thing. Yeah, if we can understand, if we can do this right, then everything kind of naturally follows. All right. Okay, so the next one, 爱国宗室. Okay, so this is, this translation say to love all nations and act with loyalty. Basically, love our home and family, our friends, neighbors, etc. Right, this expansion of the warm-heartedness is the basic work of loving the world. The earth is a village shared by all. In order to vary and transform the world, we must take it to heart and love oneself and all sentient beings. Because we do not carry the distinction of nationality or race when we pioneer Tao, whatever country we are in, we can love that country and its people. Okay, so we should identify, we should not, well, I mean, people tend to identify with, say, oh, I'm from this country, right? Or I'm of this nationality, or I'm of this race, okay? But really, but that's a way to, again, this goes into, we're distinguishing, right? We're making distinctions, which can lead to bias and prejudice and discrimination and all sorts of things, okay? It's really, it's kind of narrowing ourselves, right? We narrow our heart and mind to only that, okay? I am, or people, in politics, they say, I am a Democrat or a Republican, and that's, we're pigeonholing ourselves, right? Putting into specific, narrow categories. But we are more than that, right? We should be more than that, right? We are human beings, first of all, above all, right? So all humans should be the same. Okay, so there should be no distinction based on race or nationality. And even beyond that, right, we are all sentient beings, which means we shouldn't exclude the animals either, right? Animals are also sentient beings, and so we are all one, okay? So then we wouldn't treat the animals any differently than treating humans, all right? So we wouldn't go killing them, right, just for the sake of food, for example. And then ultimately, you can say we are all spiritual beings, and we should be, because we have that true nature, the Buddha nature, then we should be, should be like the Buddhas and saints, okay? All right, but, so, and also, the Tao activities, okay, so are purely for social welfare, right? And especially does not involve politics, right? Tao has always spared no effort to promote social stability and harmony. But yeah, in the Tao, yeah, we definitely do not get into politics. We don't take sides in the politics. Okay, we shouldn't. I mean, as an individual, right? Maybe that's our civic duty to vote or whatever. But usually what we should do is vote on the issues, right? It doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat, whatever. It doesn't matter the political party. Just vote on the issues, okay? But anyways, but the Tao itself is apolitical. So unlike in some religions, they get involved in politics, and so that's not the Tao, all right? Yeah. So and then so when we go anywhere to any country, that if we are propagating the Tao, yeah, when we go there, we should treat that country as if it's our country. Even though maybe we're not a citizen of that country, we kind of just visiting, maybe, and treat the people there as if it's the same thing as the people in our home country. Okay, so we shouldn't make that kind of distinction. After all, the Tao is for everyone. All right, the Tao is not limited to just certain people, like the Chinese, for example, or a certain country. It's intended for everyone, as long as they're willing to accept it. Okay, but but yeah, we shouldn't kind of draw these lines and say, oh, it's not for you, it's not for these people. But there's affinity and all that kind of stuff. That those are other conditions and factors that come into play. But all right, okay, so so we want to act. Okay, so this that was let's see, I think, yeah, this was actually talking about the first one, and then so the second half is to act with loyalty, right? Is to be dedicated and devoted to one's duty, to take responsibility and fulfill one's work, right? Li Si. Okay, so referring to this what the Si is, emphasizes managing matters in life suitably and pragmatically. This is achieved by acting with loyalty in daily life, right? So you can say loyalty, right? There are other words, like fidelity, okay, that that are similar. Okay, so when we do things, right? This is one of the three introspection. Let's see, one of the three, yeah, introspections, right? Of Zhenzi, right? Have I been loyal in my dealings with others? Okay, so basically, being honest and being faithful, if you will, fulfilling your, what you say you're going to do, your promises. Okay, so all these things in daily life. So this is not just being loyal to the country, okay? Because this, the first part is saying, oh, love the country, but this is to anything, okay? Even like if we're when we're working, to our employer or anyone that we might be serving, we should be loyal, show that loyalty, okay? So Holy Teacher says, Right? The Tao of Heaven emphasizes life and cultivation and the three periods of salvation. The Sanchi. Yeah, I don't know if this really, but anyways. The Tao of Humanity emphasizes the proper human relationships and the ordinary. Okay, so, the Tao, so yeah, the Tao is not about some special abilities or special uh, powers. Okay, it's an everyday life, right? So obviously the human relationships, how we deal with others, that's everyday life. So it's very ordinary, very common. Okay, so it's something that we should be doing, practicing in every day, right? And so Confucius says, right, progress in learning. I mean, so I'm missing something here, but it says, to progress in learning, one can practice the Tao of humanity to the best of one's ability and get closer to the Tao of heaven. So, we learn and we put it into practice. So again, that's one of the three introspections, right? Have I practiced what I have learned or studied? Okay, so when we can practice, and especially when we're talking about the Tao of humanity, how the human relationships, how we deal with others, how we deal with matters, all these things, being, let's say, sometimes we have to yield, we have to be forgiving, we have to be tolerant, we have to be patient, we have all these things, right? Then, and of course, besides being kind and merciful and benevolent and all that, then that's when we can do that well, manifest all those things well, then we are getting closer to the Tao of Heaven. We are getting we are getting closer to our divine nature, okay, our Buddha nature, right? So that would be heaven, right? If we can become like that, basically be like a saint or sage or Buddha, then that would be, of course, the ultimate achievement of the Tao of humanity, right? So, basically, to cultivate the Tao of heaven, first one must be established in the Tao of humanity as the starting point, right? That's including, these 8 virtues: filial piety, brotherhood or brotherly love, right? Loyalty, trust and trustworthiness, propriety, righteousness, integrity, and a sense of shame, right? Now, the most important matter or a weighty matter during this time of universal salvation is the inspecting the heart and mind and monitoring the behavior of everyone by the divinities. Okay, so therefore, to cultivate Tao of heaven, first one cultivates Tao of humanity to the best ability. Now, yeah, I mean, we talked about this before. There are, besides the Buddha, God, Buddhas, there are there's like the reporting angel who kind of reports on our activities, right? So we're constantly being monitored. And so this is something that, and not least of which, is our own conscience. Okay, so despite the fact that sometimes we might do things against our conscience, doesn't mean that our conscience isn't there. It knows. And so obviously these things are all recorded, and we will pay the price later on, right, for doing something that we shouldn't have done. Okay, so because it's all recorded there. It's all in our 8th consciousness. Okay, to be specific, and those are planting the seeds of karma. All right, so we have to be aware and to be careful. Okay, that's Holy Teacher says, right, today's universal salvation is not contrary to human relations. Father and son in the same home, the husband and wife living together, scholars continue to study, farmers continue to cultivate the fields, business do not stop work, and time is not lost, right? It's half holy and half mundane. Okay, so in other words, this mission of universal salvation during this white era, and also our cultivation, it doesn't go against the human relationships or the things that we need to do. okay, to make a living, right? And so basically, we can continue to do whatever we do, but it's, we kind of say it's half and half, okay? So maybe initially, we started off being, oh, it's all completely mundane. It's just about our worldly life. But hopefully after we receive the Tao and we start cultivating, we learn and cultivate, then we start increasing we reduce that part, the mundane part, and start emphasizing more on the holy, the spiritual, the divine, okay, aspect of our life. Because then that is the only way, that's how we get closer to God, get closer to heaven, all right? So what's true comes from within the family. The so-called way of the dreams originates with husband and wife. So everything, but it all starts within the family, right? That's how that's where everything starts. And the family is the core unit of society. And so if you can get things right in the family, right? So if that true, you can say maybe that genuineness, that sincerity, that respect, all these things, if we can nurture that and manifest that within the family, and we have eventually, we end up with a harmonious family, everyone is happy, then that is the ideal. And but it starts there, and then it kind of goes out to society. Okay, it's hard to try to change society and expect to create that utopian society without first creating that little utopia within the family. All right. So Tao cultivation is not divorced. It's not separated from practical living. Right. So we don't become like a monk. We don't become like a nun, off, living off in a monastery, away from society. We don't do that now. Right? Therefore, Dao Kin are never asked to disregard their practical responsibilities and devote themselves to the cultivation practice and participation in the Tao field, right? So, I mean, only if you're willing to do that, if you're able, whether it's financially, if you have the means to do that, sure, people can do that. But, if you need a job, keep working to support yourself and your family, then yeah, of course. Tao cultivation doesn't say that, yeah, you have to stop that. No. On the other hand, we should not go overboard either. If we have enough to live on to, a relatively comfortable life, then we don't need to go too much beyond that, right? Spend all our time pursuing wealth and material means, and forgetting about the holy or the spiritual or the divine aspect of our lives. All right. So as a cultivator, we have to remember that. Now, maybe most people, if they're not cultivating, then yeah, that's what they're going to do. But as a cultivator, we have to kind of shift that emphasis towards the holy, right? And that's what that first vow is in the Dharma class, okay? Right, to emphasize the holy over the mundane, right? So that's something that, that's kind of like the first step in cultivation. If we want to succeed in cultivation, that's what we have to do. Right, so that's here. This, we frequently say this 众生轻反, okay? So emphasize the holy over the mundane, which actually means 重天理 and then 轻 Okay, so emphasize the way of heaven and reduce the human desires, right? Because when we're pursuing those material things, the wealth, fame, whatever, those are due to our human desires for these things. And so we have to kind of cut back, hopefully eventually eliminate those desires, so that, and then follow, and at the same time, shift the emphasis towards following the ways of the saintly, the way of heaven, okay, the way of Tao. Holy Teacher says, by cultivating yourself, achieving yourself, getting rid of the human heart and mind, right? So this is the to getting rid of those desires, right, and dwelling on those emotions, okay, and attachments, right, and manifesting your divine conscience, right, is to truly emphasize the holy over the mundane. All right. So, the divine manifestation of, the manifestation of divine conscience must benefit sentient beings according to the affinity and conditions. Right. So even something as simple as sorting through the garbage or the recycling, right, and then following the rules of the road and obeying traffic laws, right, they all benefit sentient beings. Okay, so even these little things that we don't think of it as such, but it is, as long as we are not making it more difficult for sentient beings. In fact, we're making it a little bit easier for sentient beings, others, to go about their job, for example, or even for their survival, etc. Then that's a good thing. Okay, so therefore, right, Holy Teacher says, if we can carry out all matters, whether temple and holy matters or anything else, right, and do it for the greater whole, emphasizing the greater self, then this is to emphasize the holy and sacred, right? The greater self is not that ego self, that egoistic self, okay? It's not that. It's, that's just the individual self. The greater self is the greater whole, everyone, okay? So that includes everyone. Now, anything that emphasizes and is of benefit to sentient beings is holy and sacred. Right? Those who can value these matters emphasizes the holy and sacred over the mundane. So that's I think we did talk about this when we talked about this in a previous class. Okay. Now, so okay, so getting back to the this overall thing, the loving the country and love all countries or nations, and basically act with loyalty. Okay, so a country is very important, right? Without it, we would not have a home, right? We would not have that protection and the benefits that come with being a part of a citizen or resident of a country. For example, like the Israelis, okay, they're very, they are all very patriotic, okay. After like 2,000 some odd years of wandering about they never really had a nation to call their own, right? They suffered through discrimination, humiliation, slaughter, and persecution until after World War II, when their nation was established in 1948. Okay, so until then, they were, it's like, like those nomads, right? Or those gypsies, right? They just wander about without really belonging to any particular nation state. But it's kind of a tough life, and you don't get the protection from the country itself, the government, right? So that's why the country is very important, and we can see that the country provides a lot of benefits. Yeah, we do pay taxes, and but hey, it's a give and take, right? So we have to give to receive as well. So the benefits that we get are paid through our taxes and other things. So it's actually you can say it's a mutual benefit. All right. Now loyalty. I guess there's a saying that says loyalty does not support two masters. Okay, so our original nature already has 8 virtues. Okay, filial piety, brotherhood, loyalty, trust and trustworthiness, propriety, righteousness, integrity, sense of shame. Right? To love a nation and act with loyalty is inherently what we should do. Just like when we drink the water, we should think of the source. Right? Love the country as the country is the greater self, and we are the lesser self. Be dedicated to our duties as citizens or residents of a country. So, we have certain duties, maybe civic duties as a citizen of a country, and we should perform, fulfill those duties to the best of our abilities. Okay, so, again, without the country, we can't say, we may disagree with the politics, with the policies, but overall, we should be grateful that we belong to a country, right? I mean, today, of course, people can jump around and change, become a citizen of another country. If you don't like it here, you can go somewhere else. But in general, we should have that loyalty to the country we live in, where we live in, okay? Because it is, we have to be grateful. Okay, so now there's, okay, so there's a saying, 近思, yeah, 近思近忠, right? 退思补过. Okay, so that's Chinese saying. It says, basically, as an official in a court, right? He would be faithful and serve the monarch, right? When he resigned and retired, he would reflect on himself to make up for his mistakes. That's what that means. So basically, yeah, when we are serving our country, okay, then we should be faithful and loyal. But once that kind of relationship ends, okay, then we need to reflect on ourselves and see that, if I had made any mistakes in my duties, then I should try to make up for those. Okay. Now we should also be loyal to the heavenly mission, right? During this universal salvation, loyal to the heavenly affairs, and loyal to our family. Okay, so those are things. So it's kind of, you can say it's not just about the country. Yeah, but it includes all these other things down to the family. Okay. All right. So the next thing is 敦品从理. Okay. So this is basically to have a sincere character and to esteem the proper behavior, right? So 敦品, the first two, is having a genuine, honest, sincere moral character. Okay. Basically, and then so basically, we have to make sure, you can say kind of supervise our moral integrity and conduct. We have to make sure, again, through self-reflection, introspection, make sure that we do what's proper and don't commit sins, do bad things. Okay. Holy Teacher says, right, the way to cultivate Tao is to cut off the inner desires and work hard to remove the bad and increase the good or moral, thoughts, conduct, etc. Then, having achieved the perfection of merits, naturally the Buddha nature reveals and the natural innocence manifests. Okay, so we are trying to restore ourselves to our divine nature, right? That is our true nature. It is not the way we are now, being selfish and full of desires for material things and having been stubborn and attached. All these things, these are not, or even like discrimination, biases. Those are not our Buddha nature. Those are not our part of our divine nature. We are kind of far removed, right? Because we've been in this world for so many lifetimes that we've forgotten we've kind of lost our divine nature. And now we've become, just humans or mere mortals, sometimes even like animals. Okay, so we have to, that's what cultivation is all about. The learning and the cultivation is to restore that our original divine nature, okay, that bright divine nature. And so that's what it is. So so we have to cut off those desires to get that, to do that. That's part of it, of course, getting rid of attachments, things like that. And changing our bad habits or faults, getting rid of bad temper, and perform, merits. Okay, so do good deeds. These are the things that then get us closer to our divine nature, our original natural innocence. Okay, and then we are getting closer to become a saint or Buddha, right? And then we're getting closer to God in heaven. Okay, so therefore, when we behave properly, whether it's good behavior, good conduct, and also good habits, then our conduct will be good, honest, and kind. Right? We treating others and dealing with matters without going against the conscience. Okay. All right. So now, after entering the path of Tao, the first thing we must learn are the proprieties, Li Jie. Okay, so right, we kind of talked a lot about this previously. The proprieties of paying reverence to the divinities and etiquette in dealing with others. Okay. As long as we can esteem the proper behavior and strive for everyday conduct to conform to propriety, then the country and society will naturally be stable and harmonious, right? So the previous one, right, to love the country and act with loyalty, right? So it kind of depends on this one too. Okay, so that's kind of like the broader goal, if you will. Then this is kind of more narrow, that we start with ourselves, make sure that our character is proper, right? We have a moral character, and then that's the only way to kind of help us achieve the at the society and the country level. Okay, or well, family and then society and country. Okay, so Confucius says, right, do not look at what this is. Confucius is talking to Yen Hui, right? Because Yen Hui asked about I guess virtue or whatever, and so Confucius says, all right, do not look at what is improper, listen to what is improper, or speak what is improper, or do what is improper. Okay, so you can say that, we say improper here, but you can say it's against anything that's could be against our conscience as well. Okay, so and then in the provisional temple rules and regulations. Okay, that's the one, the rules and regulations set forth by, or including the proprieties. Okay, set forth by Holy Teacher, the 18th patriarch, okay, matriarch. Right, it emphasizes this 诚敬之心, okay, this sincerity, honesty, and respect, and being cautious. Okay, that's kind of what this means here. So that's, so sincerity, of course, that is really the most important thing, right? When Confucius talks about the five constants, the five constant virtues, right? It says benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and well, we use the word xing, okay, which is faith, but actually that is really, you can say, at the core of it is talking about sincerity and being genuine. Okay, being true to your true nature, your divine nature. Okay, so that's the sincerity, and being honest. Okay, respect. All right, so all these things are these are part of our core character. They should be. Okay, so this is something that to really manifest our divine nature, we have to express these. Right, sincerity, honesty, respect, and also being cautious with ourselves. All right. Of course, and all the other, like the 8 virtues and all that. Okay. So, all right. So therefore, we can see the importance of the sincerity, honesty, respect, and being cautious when we are performing like the proprieties, for example. Right. So we want to achieve basically the state of no desires. Right. Our original nature is good and honest and perfect. However, after falling into the pollution of this material world and acquiring bad habits, right? Maybe we are confused or deluded by sensual pleasures, fame, power, fortune, or the afflictions of lustful cravings, right? However, in order to restore our divine nature, we must reduce our desires so that our nature can become more quiescent and pure, right? The Qingjing. Okay, so return to that quiescent state, because desires and those strong emotions, they disrupt or disturb our quiet nature. All right. In order to cultivate the character to perfection, right, we must go through the fire or through some tempering and practice, cultivation. Okay. So if we want our character to be genuine, honest, and sincere, we must be determined or have an aspiration first. Okay. So then we must be sincere inside and act honestly and respectfully on the outside. Be modest and courteous and kind. Advance and retreat according to etiquette. Right. Sometimes we have to yield, and that's the retreating aspect. Or sometimes we need to be maybe take an initiative or be proactive on something. Okay, but all according to again the proper etiquette. So we should never be, again, we say 随缘, right? According to affinity, according to the conditions. We don't force it. We shouldn't try to force anything, right? Loyalty to those we serve and filial to our parents. Okay. Now, the noble way of propriety and righteousness, right? There is no way to stand without courtesy and propriety. We uphold and advocate or to be rooted in the propriety and etiquette. Learn the temple rules, regulations, and disciplines well. All right. So in the past, a person attended a propriety. Okay, there was this person. He attended a proprieties class, right? Starting with learning to offer the towel and serve tea. Okay, so that we do that in the temple. Now, of course, because of the conditions, right, with the pandemic and all that, we don't serve a towel, or maybe there are too many people. Serving a towel it's just cumbersome, and it's not not hygienic. So we just use the cleanser, right, the hand cleanser. But so basically, this person attended this class, and the lecturer said, right, that propriety must come from the heart, right, and be implemented in daily life, right. So, and he assigned this homework of offering the towel and serving tea to the parents when he went home. Okay. So when that person went home and saw his parents, and he got the towel, but he was kind of like pacing back and forth. He didn't know what to say to I think it was his father. Okay, so and then the father asked, what's the matter, right? So then he kind of plucked up his courage and said, "Father, today we were given homework to offer towel and serve tea. So please wipe your hands and drink the tea. Otherwise, I will not have completed my homework." Now, yeah, that's kind of funny, but see, that's not the way to do it, right? I mean, it says we have to be sincere. Sorry. Sincere and respectful. Okay, so when we're doing it, and courteous, right? So it's not just going through the motions and doing it, right? So everything, remember what that lecture says, like comes from the heart, right? We do it out of our sincerity. Okay, so that is basically an expression of our genuine self, right? Okay, let's see. All right, maybe I'll just do, oh gosh, one more. Yeah. All right, all right, I'll just do one more here. Okay, so the next one is 孝父母. Okay, so 孝父母 means to be filial towards parents. Filial piety is foremost among all good deeds. Right, so today's civilization has reached a peak in material advancement and achievement, but filial piety has been tossed far away. Okay, therefore, filial piety should be promoted and popularized all over the world to elevate the bright side of mankind. Right, even emphasizing filial piety over kindness. Right, are we doing that? Well, because excuse me. Because parents' loving kindness for their children is an extension of their lives, naturally concentrating on their children. It's a natural expression of the divine nature. Okay. So yeah, filial piety is actually, I mean, probably there's some people, I don't know how many people, maybe a lot of people you ask them, what filial piety is, they don't know what it is. Okay, so, but basically, it says it's actually the foremost among all good deeds or, conduct, good conduct, right? Okay, now Mencius says, love one's parents, be kind-hearted to people, and care for all things. Right. First, we must ask ourselves to be filial to our parents. Right. No one only loves sentient beings without being filial to their parents. Right. If they say that, they say, oh, hey, I love all sentient beings, but they're not very filial to their parents. Then their love for sentient beings is just spoken in words, and it's not real, because basically you can't really love sentient beings if you're not really filial, you don't love your parents, right? Now, Confucius says, to be a human being, one must be filial to parents, love and respect elders, and not defy the elders. Right? Such a person is never a troublemaker. Okay, so basically a person who is filial is likely to be a good person, and they're not going to do anything bad. Right? So when a truly filial person realizes that Tao cultivation can transcend the cycle of birth and death, she will inevitably want the parents to receive and to cultivate Tao, right? And will earnestly perform merits and dedicate the merits to their parents. If the parents are already passed away, the truly filial must ask of herself to diligently and unremittingly, or, constantly ferry sentient beings, dedicating the merits to the parents to help clear their sins and the karma, right? Therefore, Tao cultivation goes a step further than traditional Confucian practice, of filial piety. Right? It's not only practicing the virtue of filial piety while the parents are alive, but also maintaining the heart of filial piety or the spirit of filial piety through moral conduct and cultivation. Okay, so yeah, basically, in the traditional sense, filial piety kind of ends when the parents pass away. Sure, you also, in the traditional way, of course, there's a rite or ceremony propriety that's done when they pass away, and also they were supposed to the mourning period, the grieving period, actually was supposed to be 3 years. That was back then. Okay, so today no one does that. But for but that's all. But that doesn't really. So as a Dao cultivator, though, if we can cultivate, after our parents have passed away, as long as we continue to cultivate, keep improving ourselves, keep performing merits, then our parents will benefit. Okay, so this is a big difference between the traditional filial piety and today. So to continue, we should be more determined to continue to cultivate well if our parents pass away, as a way to basically honor them and respect them, and really and also to benefit them, to help them, right? Because they're no longer alive. We can't help do that, take care of them anymore. When my mother passed away, I promised, I was at her side. Well, I mean, she already passed away, but I went to her by her side, and I promised that I would cultivate myself well, because if I obviously, I wasn't, I mean, I was filial, but I felt like I could have done. I definitely could have done a lot better, a lot more. Okay, and I kind of maybe let her down while she was still alive. So, I promised that I would cultivate myself well after. Okay, so at least try to fulfill my filial piety even while after she has passed away. Well, she's in heaven now. She's actually the immortal of purification. So she's a saint in heaven. But still, I have to do my part. Okay. Okay. All right, so Holy Teacher says, in the human world, filial piety and love and respect for one's elders is the foundation. Children and grandchildren can uplift their ancestors and spirits in this way. This is called, Itzu through Dao. Okay, so, and it says, when a son or, a child enters the Dao, the ancestors are glorious or honored. When a son attains the Tao, the ancestors are uplifted. Okay, so attaining the Tao meaning that they've basically fulfilled their vows. Okay, so as a cultivator, we fulfilled our vows in this life, and we've performed. We've achieved in our cultivation and in our merits. Okay, so then when we return to heaven and we have, basically we are, we're not like in the cultivation court where we're still cultivating. There we actually have a title. We've made some achievement. That's called attaining the Tao. And when that happens, if that happens, hopefully it does, that our ancestors are also uplifted. So if they're in the underworld, they're as spirits, they can also return to heaven. So isn't that great? I mean, that's thousands of souls, okay, that we just saved from reincarnation. Right? So therefore, to cultivate Tao continuously for a lifetime is filial piety. Right? If one commits evil deeds or engages in immoral behavior in life, then one is not filial. Okay, so maybe we don't think of it that way, but yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, yeah. I guess I'll stop it here then. Because all right. So if I had said anything wrong or not satisfactory, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness and also asked transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.